Jake Morrison pushed his empty glass across the metal table and watched the amber liquid swirl at the bottom. The cantina on Blackwater's edge was never quiet, but tonight it felt different. Conversations died when certain names were mentioned, and seasoned mercenaries who feared nothing seemed jumpy. He had been coming to this station for 15 years, and he knew when something was wrong. The air recyclers hummed overhead, mixing the scents of alien alcohol and human sweat. Jake's weathered hands traced the scars on his knuckles while he waited. At 42, he was getting old for this business, but his reputation still opened doors. 3 successful contracts this month had filled his accounts. Yet here he sat, waiting for another job. A shadow fell across his table. Jake looked up to see a Vorthan standing beside him, purple skin gleaming under the dim lights. The alien's 4 arms moved in a nervous pattern, and his large black eyes darted around the cantina. Vorthans were known for their wealth and their paranoia, but this one seemed more frightened than usual. "Captain Morrison," the alien said, his voice carrying the typical Vorthan accent. "I am Zexthel. I have a proposition for you." Jake gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Sit. Talk." Zexthel's movements were quick and jerky as he settled into the chair. His main arms folded on the table while his secondary arms continued, their nervous twitching. "I need a team eliminated. The payment is generous?" "How generous?" Jake asked, keeping his voice neutral. In his experience, the more an employer offered, the more dangerous the job became, the Vorthan placed a credit. Chip on the table. Jake's scanner showed numbers that made his eyebrows rise. It was enough to buy a small ship or retire comfortably on a colony world. That's the advance. You get the same amount when the job is done? Jake leaned back in his chair. What's the catch? No catch, simple elimination. A research team on Kepler 442b. 5 humans. They're scientists, not soldiers. No military training, no weapons beyond basic tools. They study plants and animals. Humans, Jake repeated slowly. Something cold settled in his stomach. You're paying me double my usual rate to kill human researchers. Zexthel's eyes narrowed. The amount bothers you? The amount tells me you're not telling me everything. Jake had learned to read between the lines. Easy jobs didn't pay this well. Why so much for defenseless scientists? They're in a restricted area. The planet has dangerous wildlife. Getting there requires skill and planning. Zexthel's secondary arm stopped moving. You're human yourself. Perhaps you understand their psychology better than other mercenaries. Jake's instincts screamed warnings, but the credits were real. His crew needed work and jobs were getting scarce. Tell me about the targets. Zexthel activated a small holographic display. 5 human faces appeared above the table. Dr. Lisa Carter, age 34, xenobiologist, team leader. Ryan Walsh, 28, engineer. Amy Brooks, 31, security chief. Kevin Stone, 26, communications officer. Danny Kim, 29, data analyst. Jake studied the faces. They looked ordinary enough. Dr. Carter had kind eyes and graying hair. Ryan Walsh smiled in his photo like he had never seen real violence. Amy Brooks looked professional but not military. Kevin Stone seemed young and eager. Danny Kim appeared, nervous even in his official picture. Security chief, Jake noted, so they do have protection. One person with basic training. She handles equipment security and wildlife encounters. Nothing military, Zexthel's voice carried dismissal. The planet has predators. Someone needs to watch for them. Jake picked up the credit chip and rolled it between his fingers. What kind of research are they doing? Biological surveys. Plant samples. Animal behavior studies. Standard colonial preparation work. Zexthel leaned forward. Nothing important. Nothing dangerous. Then why kill them? They're in the wrong place at the wrong time. My employers want the area cleared for development. The researchers refuse to leave. Zexthel's main arm spread in a gesture of helplessness. Sometimes removal requires force? Jake had heard similar stories before. Corporate interests often conflicted with scientific missions. Usually, money talked louder than research grants. You tried buying them out? They declined our generous offers multiple times. Zexthel's tone grew harder. Now they must be removed by other means. The cantina's background noise seemed to fade as Jake considered the offer. 2 million credits for 5 researchers. It was more than he had ever been paid for a single job. His crew could retire after this. Carlos Martinez could finally buy the cantina he always talked about. Nicole Peterson could get her daughter the medical treatment she needed. Danny Kim could pay off his family's debts. I'll need my usual team, Jake said finally. 4 people total. Agreed. When can you leave? Give. I've made 2 days to gather supplies and briefing materials. I want everything you have about the planet, the research station, and the surrounding area. Zextel nodded quickly. Of course, I'll have the information transferred to your ship within the hour. Jake stood up, pocketing the credit chip. 1 more thing, why me? There are other mercenary captains on this station, some with better reputations for this kind of work. Zextel's black eyes seemed to grow larger. Others have tried. They haven't reported back. How many others? 3 teams, all experienced. All well-equipped. Zextel rose from his chair. None returned. Jake felt the cold feeling in his stomach grow stronger. What happened to them? Unknown. Their ships disappeared from scanners after reaching the planet. No distress signals. No debris, nothing. Zextel's voice dropped to a whisper. That's why the payment is so high. After the Vorthan left, Jake remained at his table, staring at the credit chip. 3 teams had vanished trying to kill 5 human researchers. Either the planet was more dangerous than anyone realized, or there was something special about these particular humans. He thought about the warnings he had been hearing around the station. Other mercenaries spoke in hushed tones about the human problem. Most dismissed it as superstition, but Jake had learned to listen to fears that seasoned. Killers wouldn't discuss openly. The cantina's noise returned as Jake made his decision. He would gather his crew and take the job. 2 million credits was too much to pass up, and his people needed the money. But he would go in prepared for anything. Whatever had happened to the other teams, Jake Morrison intended to succeed where they had failed. He was good at his job, and his crew was the best he had ever worked with. 5 human researchers. Shouldn't be a problem for experienced mercenaries, even if something about this job felt very wrong. The ship Razor's Edge dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the planet grow larger on the main screen. It looked peaceful enough, with blue oceans and green continents wrapped in white clouds. Nothing about it suggested danger. Looks like a nice place for a vacation, Carlos Martinez said from his station. The demolitions expert was checking his equipment for the 3rd time since they arrived. His hands moved with practiced ease, but Jake noticed the tension in his shoulders. Yeah, real peaceful, Nicole Peterson muttered from her position at the weapons console. The sniper had been quiet during the journey, studying the limited information they had about their targets. 2 peaceful for a planet that ate 3 mercenary teams. Danny Kim looked up from his computers. I'm not picking up any unusual energy signatures. No military installations, no hidden weapons platforms. Just the research station and some basic communications equipment. Jake nodded but kept his concerns to himself. Easy jobs didn't pay 2 million credits, and planets that looked this innocent rarely were. Take us in slow, full passive scans? I want to know everything about that research station before we get within weapons range. The ship moved through the outer system, sensors gathering data. The research station appeared on their screens as a small cluster of buildings near a forest clearing. Solar panels and communication arrays dotted the rooftops. A single landing pad held a small transport ship, clearly designed for supply runs rather than escape. 5 heat signatures inside. The main building, Danny reported, all human. No weapon signatures beyond standard tools and equipment. What about the security chief? Jake asked. Amy Brooks. What's she carrying? Standard sidearm, basic protection gear. Nothing military grade. Danny's fingers danced over his controls. She's got some kind of scanner device, probably for wildlife. Detection. Nicole leaned forward in her chair. Boss, something's bothering me. If 3 teams went missing here, where are their ships? I'm not seeing any wreckage, no debris fields, nothing. Jake had been wondering the same thing. Keep scanning. Maybe they're on the other side of the planet. Already checked. Nothing. They're either, Danny's voice carried confusion. It's like they just disappeared completely. Carlos looked up from his equipment. My grandmother used to tell stories about places like this. Worlds that looked safe but weren't. She said the old terrors had ways of making people vanish without a trace. Your grandmother told ghost stories, Nicole said, but her voice lacked conviction. We're dealing with reality here, are we? Carlos asked quietly. 3 teams of experienced mercenaries don't just disappear, not without leaving something behind. Jake decided to focus on the mission. Take us to the far side of the planet. We'll set up a base camp and do proper reconnaissance before making any moves. The ship settled into a clearing 50 kilometers from the research station. Jake's team spent the next 6 hours establishing their position and gathering intelligence. Long-range sensors confirmed what they already knew. 5 humans, minimal defenses, no apparent threats. I'm going to take a closer look, Nicole said, shouldering her rifle. Get some eyes on the targets, see what they're actually doing. Jake nodded. Stay hidden, we're just observing for now. Nicole disappeared into the forest with the silent grace that made her the best sniper Jake had ever worked with. The rest of the team settled in to wait, monitoring communications and scanning for any changes. 2 hours later, Nicole's voice crackled over the comm. Boss, you need to see this. What is it, the humans? They're not acting like researchers. Well, they are, but there's something else. Dr. Carter just encountered one of the local predators. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Is she in trouble? That's the thing. She's not running, she's studying it, while it's trying to kill her. Through Nicole's scope camera, Jake watched the scene unfold on his display. A massive creature, all teeth and claws, had emerged from the forest near the research station. It stood 3 meters tall and looked like it could tear through steel plating. Dr. Carter stood 30 meters away, not fleeing but observing. Amy Brooks is moving to help, Nicole reported, but she's not panicking either. She's moving like she's done this before. Jake watched Amy Brooks approach the creature from the side. Her movements were careful and calculated, not the desperate actions of a frightened civilian. She carried what looked like a standard research tool, but she held it like a weapon. She's flanking it, Carlos said, watching over Jake's shoulder. That's a military tactic. The creature turned toward Amy, recognizing the threat. Instead of backing down, she stood her ground and activated her device. A burst of energy struck the predator, not enough to kill it, but enough to get its attention. The creature charged. What happened next made Jake's blood run cold. Amy Brooks didn't just defend herself. She fought with precision and skill that belonged in a military textbook. She moved like water, always one step ahead of the creature's attacks. Her energy weapon found weak points with surgical accuracy, but that wasn't the most disturbing part. Dr. Carter continued taking readings throughout the entire encounter. She was studying the creature's behavior patterns while it was trying to kill her teammate. When the predator finally retreated, wounded but alive, both women calmly returned to their work. That wasn't self-defense. Nicole's voice was tight with concern. That was a tactical engagement. Brooks knew exactly what she was doing. Jake stared at the display. Are you sure she's not military? Records say she's a security chief with basic training. But boss, I've seen soldiers who couldn't move like that. Danny looked up from his computers. I'm picking up communications from the station. They're discussing the encounter. Put it on speaker. Dr. Carter's voice filled the command center. The predator's attack patterns matched the previous encounters. It's definitely adapted to our presence. Should we adjust the perimeter sensors? That was Amy Brooks, sounding completely calm after her life-or-death encounter. No need. The current setup is working fine. Kevin, how are the communications arrays? All functioning normally. Still, no response from the supply ship, but that's expected. Jake exchanged glances with his team. These people were talking about deadly predators like they were discussing the weather. Either they were incredibly stupid or they were something other than what they appeared to be. "Boss," Nicole's voice came through the come again, "something else. The way Dr. Carter was taking readings during the fight. She wasn't just studying the creature, she was studying Brooks too." Jake felt pieces of a puzzle clicking into place, but he didn't like the picture they were forming. "What do you mean?" "She was measuring reaction times, movement patterns, combat effectiveness. It's like she was evaluating her own security chief." Carlos leaned forward. "Why would a researcher need to evaluate her security?" "Unless she's not really a researcher," Jake said quietly. "Demi, go deeper into their records. Find out everything you can about these people. Already trying, boss. But their files are clean, maybe too clean." Jake stared at the peaceful research station on his screen. 5 humans who weren't afraid of deadly predators. A security chief who fought like a veteran soldier. A team leader who studied combat while it was happening. And 3 missing mercenary teams. "We're pulling back," Jake decided. "Full withdrawal to the ship. We need to rethink this approach." "Boss?" Nicole's voice carried surprise. "They're just 5 researchers." Jake looked at the display showing Dr. Carter calmly collecting samples while Amy Brooks cleaned her weapon. "Are they?" "Because right now, I'm not sure what we're dealing with." As his team prepared to withdraw, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The humans at the research station seemed too calm, too prepared. And somewhere, in the back of his mind, he remembered Carlos's words about the old terrors. Maybe ghost stories weren't just stories after all. Jake Morrison sat in his ship's command center, staring at the data Danny Kim had gathered about the research team. The files were perfect, almost too perfect. Every record checked out, every credential verified, every background detail in place. That was the problem? "Real people have messy histories," Jake said, scrolling through Dr. Carter's file. "Bad grades, failed relationships, minor legal troubles. These files read like someone created perfect identities." Carlos looked up from cleaning his weapons. "You think they're using false names?" "I think they're not who they claim to be." Jake turned to Danny. "How deep did you dig?" "Deep enough to find problems. Dr. Carter's university records show she graduated with honors, but I can't find any of her professors. Ryan Walsh's engineering certifications are valid, but the company that issued them was dissolved years ago. Amy Brooks has security training, but from a school that doesn't exist anymore." Nicole frowned. "Could be coincidence." "Companies go out of business all the time. All of them. Every single reference, every training facility, every previous employer." Danny shook his head. "The odds are astronomical." Jake's communicator chimed. An incoming message from the research station. He looked at his team, then activated the display. Dr. Carter's face appeared on the screen, calm and professional. "Captain Morrison," she said, and Jake felt his blood freeze. She knew his name. "I believe you and your team have been watching. Yes, we need to talk." Carlos reached for his weapon, but Jake held up a hand. "How do you know who I am?" "The same way we knew you were coming, the same way we knew about the other teams." Dr. Carter's expression didn't change. "We've been expecting you." "Expecting us?" "Zextel isn't the first to put a contract on our heads. He won't be the last." She paused, studying Jake's face through the screen. "We're willing to meet under a flag of truce. 1 hour, the clearing. Between your position and our station." Jake considered his options. Meeting could be a trap, but staying hidden was clearly pointless. "Why should I trust you?" "Because if we wanted you dead, you already would be." Dr. Carter's voice carried. "No threat, just simple fact. 1 hour, Captain. Come alone or bring your team?" "Your choice." The transmission ended. Jake stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. They knew his name, his location, probably his entire mission. The research team he was supposed to eliminate had been expecting him. "It's a trap," Nicole said immediately. "Has to be, maybe," Jake replied. "Or maybe it's the only way to find out what happened to the other teams." Carlos stood up, checking his equipment. I'm going with you. Me too, Danny said. If this goes wrong, you'll need tech support. Nicole sighed and picked up her rifle. Fine, but I'm taking over watch position. If they try anything, I'll have clean shots. An hour later, Jake walked into the clearing with Carlos and Danny beside him. Nicole had found a good position on a ridge overlooking the area. The forest was quiet, too quiet for a planet supposedly full of dangerous predators. Dr. Carter emerged from the trees, accompanied by Amy Brooks and the man Jake didn't recognize. The newcomer was tall and lean, with graying hair and eyes that missed nothing. He moved like a soldier, not a researcher. Captain Morrison, Dr. Carter said, stopping 10 meters away. Thank you for coming. Who's your friend? Jake asked, nodding toward the unknown man. Commander Alex Turner. He handles our security protocols. Dr. Carter's smile was slight. Our real security protocols. Jake felt the pieces clicking together. You're military. We were, all of us. Turner stepped forward, his hands visible but ready. Dr. Carter is former Navy intelligence. Amy Brooks was Marine Force Recon. Ryan Walsh served in the engineering corps. Kevin Stone was Communications Division. And you? Strategic Operations, Black Ops? Turner's voice carried old authority. We've been watching this sector for signs of trouble. Carlos shifted nervously beside Jake. What kind of trouble? Dr. Carter and Turner exchanged glances. The kind that requires a research station as cover, she said. The kind that makes crime lords pay millions to have us eliminated. Jake's mind raced. You're not studying plants and animals? We are, actually, but that's not why we're here. Turner gestured toward the forest. This planet has ruins, ancient ones. The kind that most species prefer to forget about. What kind? Of ruins? Human ruins, Dr. Carter said quietly. Very old human ruins. Jake felt the world shift around him. That's impossible. Humans have only been in space for 200 years. That's what everyone believes, Turner replied. It's what we believed too until we started finding evidence. This planet, Captain Morrison, was inhabited by humans thousands of years ago. Advanced humans with technology that makes our current civilization look primitive. Carlos made a sound. Deep in his throat, the old terrors. My grandmother's stories. Your grandmother was smarter than most, Dr. Carter said. The galaxy has been hiding the truth for millennia. Humans didn't start exploring space 200 years ago. We returned to space 200 years ago. Jake struggled to process what he was hearing. You're saying humans had an empire? The empire, the only one that mattered. Turner's voice grew harder. We controlled most of the galaxy until something happened. Something that made us retreat. Go dormant, forget who we were. What happened? We don't know yet, but we're finding pieces. This planet has defense systems that still work. Weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Technology that bends the laws of physics. Dr. Carter stepped closer. That's why Zexthel wants us dead. That's why the other species are terrified. Danny found his voice. The other teams, what happened to them? They joined us, Amy Brooks said simply. Once they understood what we were protecting, they realized which side they should be on. 3 entire mercenary teams just switched sides? Once they saw what we showed them, yes. Turner smiled grimly. Would you like to see it too? Jake looked at his team. Carlos was pale, his hands shaking slightly. Danny appeared fascinated and terrified at the same time. Through his earpiece he could hear Nicole's steady breathing. From her overwatch position, what exactly are you protecting? Jake asked. The future, Dr. Carter said. Humanity's real future. Not the limited, controlled expansion that other species allow us. Our birthright. Turner activated a device on his wrist. The ground beneath their feet began to vibrate. In the distance, Jake could see something rising from the forest. It looked like a spire at first, then revealed itself as a massive structure, emerging from underground. Metal and energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. One of many, Turner said. Defense platforms hidden across the planet, each one capable of destroying a battle fleet. Jake stared at the impossible structure. How long have you known? Officially? 6 months? Unofficially? Some of us have suspected for years. Dr. Carter's expression was sad. The galaxy has been feeding us false histories, limiting our technology, keeping us weak. They remember what we were, even if we don't. Why tell us this? Because you're human, Turner said simply. Because you deserve to know the truth, because we need allies for what's coming. What's coming? War, Amy Brooks said. The other species won't let us reclaim our heritage peacefully. They'll try to destroy us first. Jake felt the weight of decision pressing down on him. His mission was to eliminate these people, but they were offering him something else entirely. Truth, purpose, a chance to be part of something bigger than just another mercenary contract. The other teams, he said slowly, are they still here? Some of them. Others are spreading the word to human colonies across the galaxy. Turner's smile was grim. We're not the only ones waking up, Captain. This is happening everywhere. Through his earpiece, Jake heard Nicole's voice. Boss, we've got company. Big company. Ships dropping out of hyperspace. Looks like Zexthel brought friends. Dr. Carter sighed. He's earlier than we expected. Captain Morrison, you need to make a choice. Fight with us or fight against us, but choose quickly. Jake looked at the ancient human structure rising from the forest, then at the people who claimed to be protecting humanity's future. Everything he thought he knew about human history, about his place in the galaxy, was crumbling around him. How do I know you're telling the truth? Because, Turner said, pointing to the sky where ships were beginning to appear, they're here. To kill us all? And if we're just harmless researchers, why would they need a fleet? Jake made his choice. Jake Morrison looked up at the darkening sky where alien ships were gathering like storm clouds. Zexthel had brought more than just a fleet. He had brought an armada. Dozens of vessels hung in orbit, their weapons already charging with deadly light. How many? Jake asked through his come to Nicole. 43 ships and counting, came her reply from the ridge. Mix of cruisers, destroyers, and something big I don't recognize. They're not here to negotiate. Commander Turner smiled. Grimly, they never are. The galaxy's major powers have been planning this for decades. They can't risk humanity remembering who we really are. Dr. Carter activated her own communication device. Ryan, Kevin, bring the others, it's time. Jake watched as more figures emerged from the forest. He recognized some faces from the intelligence files on the missing mercenary teams. Captain Elena Vasquez from the first team walked beside, a tall man with cybernetic implants who must have been from the second group. Behind them came others, humans who should have been enemies but now moved like allies. You turned them, Jake said, understanding dawning, all of them. We showed them the truth, Amy Brooks corrected. Just like we're showing you. Carlos stepped closer to Jake, his face pale. Both my grandmother's stories. She said the old ones would return when the galaxy was in danger. She said they would call their children home. Your grandmother was a wise woman, Dr. Carter said gently. Some families kept fragments of the old memories. Most forgot completely. Danny Kim was staring at his scanner, confusion clear on his face. I'm picking up massive energy signatures from underground. Not just here, but all across the planet. It's like the entire world is waking up. Turner nodded. The defense systems are automated. When they detect a significant threat, they activate themselves. Humanity's ancestors built their safeguards. Well, a new voice cut through the conversation. All human vessels, this is Admiral Zexthel of the Galactic Security Council. You are in violation of Sector 12 restrictions. Surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. Jake felt a chill. The Galactic Security Council was the combined military force of the galaxy's major powers. If they were here officially, this was bigger than one crime lord's contract. Jake, Nicole's voice crackled through his earpiece. More ships jumping in. I count at least 20 different species represented. This isn't a raid, it's an invasion. Dr. Carter's expression hardened. And they're not taking any chances this time. They want to make sure no trace of ancient humanity survives. This is insane, Jake said. You're talking about a war against the entire galaxy. We're talking about survival, Turner replied. Look around you, Captain. We're not the aggressors. Here, we're researchers and mercenaries hiding on a remote planet, and they brought a fleet to kill us. The ancient spire that had risen from the forest began to glow with internal light. Other structures were emerging across the landscape, their surfaces covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as Jake watched them. The weapons platforms are coming online, Amy Brooks reported, consulting her own scanner. Planetary defense grid will be fully operational in 10 minutes. Jake's mind raced. How powerful are these defenses? Powerful enough, Turner said simply. But the real question is whether you want to see them used. Through his comm, Jake heard the voice of one of the missing mercenary captains. Jake Morrison. This is Elena Vasquez. I know you're down there. Listen to me carefully. Everything you think you know about human history is wrong. Everything you think you know about our place in the galaxy is a lie. Jake activated his response channel. Elena, what the hell is going on? We found something here, Jake. Something that changes everything. The ruins, the technology, the defense systems. They're not just ancient human artifacts. They're ours. They belong to us. I don't understand. Humans didn't evolve on Earth, Jake. We were colonists. Earth was just one of thousands of human worlds. We had an empire that spanned the galaxy, technology that made us gods among the stars. Carlos grabbed Jake's arm. The old terrors. My grandmother said they would return when their children were threatened. Dr. Carter stepped forward. Your friend is right, Captain. We're not discovering ancient human technology. We're remembering it. And the galaxy's other powers are terrified of what happens when humanity fully awakens. A massive explosion lit the sky as one of the alien ships fired on the planet's surface. The beam of energy struck somewhere beyond the horizon, sending a shockwave through the ground. They're testing the defenses, Turner said calmly, trying to see what we have. The ancient spire near them suddenly blazed with light. A beam of pure energy lanced upward, striking one of the smaller alien ships. The vessel simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but erased from reality. Jesus Christ, Danny whispered. What was that? Level 1 defensive response, Dr. Carter said. The platforms are still warming up. Jake stared at the empty space where the ship had been. How many of these platforms are there? On this planet, several hundred, across human space? Turner smiled. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. All waking up as humanity remembers who we are. Through his comm, Jake heard Nicole's urgent voice. Boss, the aliens are repositioning. They're preparing for a full bombardment. How long do we have? Minutes, maybe less. Jake looked at his team. Carlos was staring at the ancient structures, with something approaching religious awe. Danny was frantically trying to scan the alien technology around them. Through his earpiece he could hear Nicole's steady breathing as she prepared for what might be her final battle. The choice is yours, Captain, Dr. Carter said softly. Fight with us and help humanity reclaim its birthright, or fight against US and help the galaxy keep us suppressed. What about my crew? They'd choose for themselves, just as the other teams did? Jake activated his comm. Nicole, Carlos, Danny, you all heard what they said. What's your call? Carlos answered first. My grandmother would never forgive me if I fought against our own people. I'm with them. Danny's voice came next, shaky but determined. If what they're saying is true, if we really are descendants of some ancient empire, then we have a right to know. I'm in. Jake waited for Nicole's response. Finally, her voice came through the comm. I've been watching these defense platforms track the alien ships. Boss, they're not just weapons. They're thinking. They're alive in some way. If that's human technology, if that's part of who we are, then I want to know more. Jake felt the weight of decision lift from his shoulders. Dr. Carter, what do you need us to do? Help us defend this planet. Help us protect the truth until more humans can learn it. She gestured toward the research station. We have weapons, equipment, and knowledge. What we need are allies. Turner stepped forward. The other species made one critical mistake. They Assumed we were still the same weak humans they've been controlling for generations. They forgot that we built all of this once before. The sky above them erupted in light as the alien fleet began its attack. Energy beams lanced downward, striking the planet's surface. But for every beam that fell, two more rose from the ancient human defense platforms. "Jake," Elena Vasquez's voice came through the cum. "Welcome to the real war. The one that's been going on for thousands of years." Jake watched alien ships begin to fall from the sky, destroyed by weapons that humanity had built in ages past. "What happens now?" "Now," Dr. Carter said, "we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity's children." The ancient spire near them began to sing, a sound that seemed to resonate in Jake's bones. Similar songs rose from defense platforms across the planet as they came fully online. "The awakening has begun," Turner said. "And the galaxy will never be the same." Jake Morrison, mercenary captain, looked up at the battle raging overhead and realized he was no longer just a gun for hire. He was part of something much larger, much older, and much more dangerous than anything the galaxy had seen in millennia. The old terrors were returning, and they were coming home. The battle above Kepler 442b raged like nothing Jake Morrison had ever witnessed. Alien ships filled the sky, their weapons painting deadly lines of light across the atmosphere. But for every shot they fired, the ancient human defense platforms responded with technology that defied understanding. Jake crouched beside Amy Brooks in a hastily constructed bunker near the research station. Through his scope, he watched a Vorthan cruiser dissolve into nothingness as one of the defense beams touched it. The ship didn't explode or break apart. It simply stopped existing. "How is that possible?" Jake asked, his voice barely audible. Over the sounds of battle. Amy adjusted her scanner, tracking the movements of boarding shuttles that had broken through the orbital defenses. "The platforms don't just destroy matter. They erase it from reality. It's technology we haven't seen in over 10,000 years. 10,000 years, Jake repeated. How long has humanity been hiding this? We weren't hiding it, we forgot it." Dr. Carter's voice came through their comm system. "The suppression wasn't just political, it was psychological. Someone made us forget who we were." Carlos Martinez appeared at the bunker's entrance, his face streaked with dirt and his eyes wide, with something between fear and amazement. "Boss, you need to see this. The platforms aren't just weapons, they're manufacturing new defenses." Jake followed Carlos outside and looked toward the nearest spire. The structure had grown since the battle began, extending new sections and weapon arrays. As he watched, it spawned smaller platforms that rose into the air and began engaging the alien fighters. "They're self-replicating," Danny Kim said, jogging up to the group with his portable computer. "The defense grid is building itself. Every time the aliens destroy one platform, two more take its place." Through his earpiece, Jake heard Nicole's voice from her sniper position. "Movement to the south. Alien ground forces, about 30 troops. They're trying to reach the main platform." Jake grabbed his rifle. "Species? Mixed unit. Vorthans? HFY? Some I don't recognize. They're carrying heavy weapons. We need to stop them from reaching the platform," Amy said, checking her weapon. "If they damage the control systems, the entire grid could go offline." Jake looked around at his small team. 6 humans with basic weapons against 30 alien soldiers with military equipment. In any normal situation, it would be suicide. What are our odds? "Better than you think," Commander Turner said, appearing from the direction of the research station. "The platforms aren't the only things waking up." Turner led them to a concealed entrance Jake hadn't noticed before. Inside, the walls glowed with the same shifting symbols they had seen on the exterior platforms. But these symbols were moving faster, pulsing with increasing urgency. "Personal defense systems," Turner explained, approaching a wall panel. "Every human settlement had them. Weapons and armor designed specifically for human physiology." The wall opened, revealing equipment that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. Suits of armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal, weapons that hummed with contained energy, devices whose purposes Jake couldn't even guess. "Put them on," Dr. Carter said, already stepping into one of the suits. "The armor will interface with your nervous system. Don't fight it, let it guide you." Jake hesitated. "What if it doesn't work? What if we're not compatible?" "You're human," Turner said simply. "That's all the compatibility it needs." The armor flowed over Jake like a second skin, warm and strangely comforting. Information began appearing in his vision, tactical displays that showed enemy positions, weapon status, even the health of his teammates. He felt stronger, faster, more aware than ever before. "Holy shit," Carlos breathed, flexing his armored hands. "I can see through walls." "Thermal imaging, motion detection, electromagnetic scanning," Amy explained. "Standard combat suite for human infantry." Danny was staring at his weapon, a device that looked like a simple rod but felt alive in his hands. "How do I use this?" "Think about what you want it to do," Dr. Carter said. "The weapon will adapt." Jake tested his own weapon, focusing on the need for range and precision. The device extended, forming what looked like a rifle, but with no visible ammunition or power source. "This is incredible." "This is who we were," Turner corrected. "Who we still are, underneath the suppression." Nicole's voice crackled through their enhanced communication system. "They're moving faster. Ada to the platform is 3 minutes." Jake felt the armor's tactical systems engage, mapping the terrain and suggesting optimal approaches. "Let's move." They emerged from the underground facility and began making their way toward the alien landing site. Jake had expected to feel clumsy in the ancient armor, but instead he moved with fluid grace. The suit anticipated his movements, enhanced his reflexes, made him faster and stronger than any human had a right to be. "Contact," Nicole reported. "Visual on the enemy force. They're setting up some kind of device near the platform base." Through his enhanced vision, Jake could see the alien soldiers working frantically to deploy what looked like a massive bomb. If they succeeded in destroying the platform, it might create a gap in the planetary defenses. "Demolition charge," Amy confirmed. "They're trying to take out the main power coupling." Jake felt something stirring in his mind, knowledge that wasn't his own. Combat tactics, weapon specifications, strategic analysis. The armor wasn't just protecting him, it was teaching him. "Fan out," he heard himself say, using formations he had never learned. "Carlos, take the left flank. Danny, provide covering fire from the ridge. Amy, you're with me on the direct approach." They moved like a precision military unit, each person knowing exactly where to be and when. Jake's weapon shifted configuration, as he needed it, becoming a sniper rifle for long-range shots, then a close combat weapon as they closed with the enemy. The alien soldiers were experienced and well-equipped, but they were fighting technology they didn't understand. Jake's shots passed through their energy shields like they weren't there. Carlos's explosives found weak points in their armor with surgical precision. Amy moved like a force of nature, her weapon cutting through enemy positions. "Jake," Nicole's voice was filled with wonder. "I can see everything. The suit is showing me wind patterns, gravity fluctuations, even the electrical activity in the aliens' nervous systems." Jake understood the armor wasn't just advanced technology. It was designed by a species that had mastered warfare on a galactic scale. Every human who wore it became a force multiplier, a single soldier worth dozens of conventional troops. The battle was over in minutes. The alien demolition team lay scattered across the platform base, their equipment destroyed. Jake stood among the wreckage, breathing heavily but feeling more alive than ever before. "Status report," Turner's voice came through their comms. "Platform secure," Jake replied. "Enemy force neutralized." "Good, the orbital battle is turning in our favor. The platforms have destroyed over half the alien fleet." Jake looked up at the sky where the ancient human weapons continued their deadly work. Ships that had ruled the galaxy for millennia were falling like leaves before technology their creators had forgotten they possessed. "Turner, how many planets have these defenses?" "We're not sure. The network is still coming online, but initial scans suggest hundreds of worlds, maybe thousands." Carlos laughed, a sound of pure joy. The galaxy picked a fight with the wrong species. Jake felt the truth of those words. Humanity hadn't been conquered or suppressed. They had been sleeping, waiting for the moment when they would be needed again. Now that moment had come, and the old powers of the galaxy were learning what their ancestors had known. Never threaten humanity's children, Dr. Carter, Jake said. What happens now? Now we finish what they started. The suppression ends today. Jake looked at his transformed team, at the ancient weapons in their hands, at the sky where human technology was reclaiming the stars. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake in trying to destroy them. Soon, everyone would know that humanity had come home. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the research station, watching the last alien ships retreat into hyperspace. The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. Below him, the ancient human defense platforms continued their vigilant watch, no longer hidden but standing proud against the star-filled sky. 3 days had passed since Admiral Zexville's fleet had been destroyed. The Galactic Security Council's armada, once numbering over 200 ships, had been reduced to fewer than 30 vessels that managed to escape. The survivors carried word of humanity's awakening to every corner of the galaxy. The communication arrays are lighting up across human space, Danny Kim reported from his expanded workstation. The ancient technology had interfaced seamlessly with his equipment, giving him access to networks he never knew existed. Colony worlds, research stations, even Earth itself. The defense grids are coming online everywhere. Dr. Carter approached the observation window, her expression thoughtful. How many worlds, so far? 317 confirmed activations, but the network keeps growing. Every time a new grid comes online, it connects to others we didn't know about. Jake shook his head in amazement. 300 worlds with weapons like these. No wonder the galaxy was terrified. This is just the beginning, Commander Turner said, joining them at the window. The platforms are designed to seek out and awaken other human settlements. We're discovering colonies that have been lost for millennia. Carlos Martinez walked in carrying a steaming cup of coffee, still wearing parts of the ancient armor. None of them had been able to completely remove the suits. They had bonded with their wearers at a cellular level. Just got word from Nicole. She's been in contact with other human mercenary groups. They're all asking the same question, which is? Jake asked. What side are we on now? Jake understood the problem. Human mercenaries had spent generations taking contracts against other humans, fighting for alien employers, serving interests that were not their own. Now that the truth was revealed, old loyalties were crumbling. The answer is simple, Doctor. Carter said. We're on humanity's side. We always should have been. Amy Brooks entered the room carrying a datapad filled with reports. The exodus has begun. Human populations are leaving alien-controlled space and moving toward the awakened worlds. Ships are arriving here daily, asking for sanctuary. Jake looked at the growing camp outside the research station. Hundreds of humans had already arrived, refugees from across the galaxy who had heard the call and come home. They came in everything from luxury transports to cargo haulers, carrying whatever they could save from their old lives. What about the other species? Jake asked. Are they all hostile? Turner shook his head. No, we're getting communications from some groups asking for peace talks. The smarter ones realize they can't fight us and don't want to try. And the others? The others are preparing for war. A new voice interrupted their conversation. Captain Morrison, you're needed in the command center. Jake turned to see Elena Vasquez, the mercenary captain who had been part of the first missing team. She wore the ancient armor like she had been born to it, moving with the enhanced grace that came from the neural interface. What's the situation? We've made contact with Earth. Jake felt his heart skip. Earth, humanity's supposed homeworld, the planet they all claimed as their origin. What did they say? They want to talk to you specifically. Something about your reputation and your crew? Jake followed Elena to the command center, now expanded far beyond its original size by the awakening technology. Holographic displays showed the positions of human fleets across the galaxy, defense grids coming online and alien forces retreating or preparing for conflict. At the center of it all stood a communication array that hummed with power beyond imagination. Dr. Carter was already at the controls, her fingers dancing over interfaces that responded to thought as much as touch. "Captain Morrison," she said without turning around, "Earth's Planetary Defense Command wants to offer you a position." "What kind of position?" "Liaison to the independent human forces. Mercenaries, traitors, colonists who operate outside the traditional structure. They need someone who understands that life." Jake considered the offer. What would that involve? A new voice filled the room, transmitted across the vastness of space, but clear as if the speaker stood beside them. "It would involve helping us rebuild what was lost, Captain Morrison, and preparing for what's coming." "Who am I speaking with?" "Admiral Sarah Mitchell, Earth Defense Force. Until 3 days ago, I thought I commanded the most advanced human military in the galaxy. Now I discover we're using toys compared to what our ancestors built." Jake looked around at his crew. Carlos was grinning, obviously excited by the possibilities. Danny was already interfacing with the communication system, his enhanced senses processing data streams from across human space. Nicole had taken a position near the tactical displays, her sniper's instincts adapting to strategic thinking. "Admiral, what exactly are you asking us to do?" "Help us contact every human who's been living under alien rule. Show them what we've discovered. Give them the choice to come home or stay where they are." The Admiral's voice carried the weight of command but also hope. "The galaxy spent millennia keeping us divided, weak, dependent. No more." Amy Brooks stepped forward. "What about the species that want peace? We'll listen to them, we'll negotiate. But from a position of strength, not weakness." Admiral Mitchell paused. "Captain Morrison, your reputation precedes you. You've worked with dozens of alien species, know their psychology, understand their military capabilities. We need that knowledge." Jake made his decision. "I accept, but my crew comes with me. And we do things our way." "Agreed. Dr. Carter will provide you with the necessary equipment and authorization codes. Welcome to the new Earth Defense Force, Captain." The transmission ended, leaving Jake standing in a room full of technology that his species had built when they ruled the galaxy. Around him, his friends and colleagues were becoming something more than they had ever imagined possible. "So what happens now?" Carlos asked. Dr. Carter smiled. "Now we go home. All of us." Jake looked out at the stars, no longer seeing them as vast empty spaces between alien-controlled worlds. Instead, he saw highways that led to human settlements, ancient paths that his species had walked when they were the dominant force in the galaxy. "The other mercenary crews," Jake said, "they'll need to make the same choice we did." "Most will join us," Nicole said confidently. "Once they see what we've seen, once they understand what humanity really is, they'll come home too." Turner activated another display showing the positions of known human populations across the galaxy. Red dots marked worlds under alien control, blue dots showed awakened human colonies, and yellow dots indicated populations that hadn't yet been contacted. "Our mission is clear," Turner said. "Find every lost human community. Show them the truth. Give them the choice to reclaim their heritage." Jake nodded, feeling the weight of purpose settle on his shoulders. He was no longer just a mercenary captain taking contracts for credits. He was part of humanity's return to greatness, a shepherd, helping to guide his people home. Outside, another ship landed in the growing refugee camp. More humans who had heard the call and abandoned their old lives to be part of something greater. Each arrival strengthened the awakening network, activated more ancient systems, reminded the galaxy of what humanity had once been. Jake Morrison looked at his crew, his friends, his family, and smiled. "Let's go wake up the galaxy." The age of human suppression was over. The age of human ascendancy had begun.